What's happening, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. So, the rookie camp is over, and really, we're just getting started. We're just getting started with this upcoming 22-23 season in the NHL, as training camp will, of course, get started on the 22nd this week. Looking forward to it. But let's talk about the players that stood out from this rookie camp. And there's a bunch. There's a bunch, and there's no better place to start than the guy who's trending number one on HockeyDB.com right now, and that's Mr. Arber Xhekaj after this heavyweight tilt from yesterday with the Ottawa Senators. And my gosh, that was a spectacle in itself. I didn't know that those heavyweight fights could still exist, especially with these young prospects. But there were three fights this week, or in these three games, at least three fights at the prospect tournament, if you will. Here, a lot of other folks stood out too, though. So we got Emil Heineman, who had to me, one of the bigger standouts of this rookie tournament, and of course, Owen Beck was the other. He was another huge one for the Montreal Canadiens, standing out quite a bit, if I can say so myself. And also Philip Machar probably stood out even more so than his fellow countryman Juraj Slafkovsky. We'll get to Slav later, but Machar had himself a good few games here. Justin Barron doing his thing and looking steady on the back end, getting some good shots in the power play, just looking natural, comfortable. RB once again. This is a thumbnail actually I had from a video. Lots of Arber Xhekaj content on this channel. If you want to see more, it's on there. Trust me, it's really good stuff from an OHL analyst. Caden Gooley. This guy, to me, I think Caden Gooley personally is going to be even closer to Jeff Petrie, and a combination of maybe even Petrie and Weber as we go ahead. I thought it would be, I was comparing Justin Barron with Jeff Petrie, but I think Caden Gooley could be a combination of both Weber and Petrie the way he's been looking. So Jordan Harris also looking steady on the back end, moving his feet well, even jumping up in an offensive chance or two, just like Gooley. And William Trudeau, somebody I didn't know much about, he stood out quite a bit in these three games with the Canadiens. Riley Kidney looking good as well, playing with Slafkovsky, Owen Beck. He was looking good. He had a nice power play goal. Then, of course, we're going to talk about Slav at some point as well. So a lot of people with some mixed reactions on his play over the weekend. He only played in 2 of the 3 games, but we'll get to him afterwards. So just some notes I took from these games. And it's funny because how much do you really take from this little rookie tournament here? How much do you really want to glean from it in terms of how you want to evaluate our prospects this early in the game, so to speak, in terms of when and where, or if they're going to end up on the Montreal Canadiens at some point? So it's pretty clear, though, the ones that stood out to us. And I think I mentioned Arber Xhekaj, and it wasn't just his physicality, although that was the main event of his play, the main focal point of his play throughout the weekend here. But also just, he can move his feet too, right? For a guy that's 6'4", over 200 pounds, he can move his feet. He can still make plays offensively. He can keep the puck in, just do a lot of the simple little things that's required of a defenseman. He can probably chip in an offense. We've seen, even if you look on his hockey DB numbers, he can do that, especially in the playoffs as well, where he had himself a great run to the OHL title with the Hamilton Bulldogs. So Emil Heineman, though, he stood out to me quite a bit. Just made some game notes over here, and of course, it's easy to look at the numbers, goals and assists, and try to say, okay, well, this guy didn't score, this guy did score, and therefore, here's your conclusion that you want to draw. I'm not drawing any major conclusions at all, and I don't think a lot of you guys necessarily will, but you're going by your impression of these guys getting their first taste of an NHL rookie camp, and that's why, to me, I think you can only take so much from it. And that's why we'll get to Slafkovsky in a second. He's probably going to get the harshest amount of criticism because he's got the most pressure on him. And you could see it, right? You could see it in the way he was playing, but you could also see that he was still making some great plays as well. But Owen Beck, I was surprised because, like I mentioned to you guys, I'm planning to try to go interview Owen in just over a week from now when he comes to play the Niagara Ice Dogs in the home opener here in Niagara. So it's going to be fun to talk to him about who his line mates were, Slafkovsky as being one of them. But just the fact that Owen, he scored that really nice goal against New Jersey. That was beautiful, falling down and just sniping it. But he got a couple of goals and some points in these 3 rookie games. But also, I think he just got more comfortable as the tournament went along here, or as the scrimmages went along, whatever you want to call them. And you could really just see that from an overall sense. Offensively, he stood out the most, I think, but also just the fact that he uses smarts. Now, Owen Beck is a player that again, we know he's got like a 95 average. Like, this guy is not just a smart hockey player, he's just a smart person, but it seems to be translating on the ice. I don't know. I mean, he's a really educated guy, really smart, but just really smart on the ice too. That's what you're kind of seeing. And it's just kind of a good combination to have for a guy that is still so full of potential, but yet you can see a lot of his smarts already on display in just these 3 games here. So really liked Philip Machar's game. I really liked the neutral zone, the play that he created in order to, whose goal was it here? I'm just going to actually pull up the notes here from the Sens game, but Machar turning on the Jets in the neutral zone. And sorry, it's a little early as I'm actually recording this today, a little tired. But turning on the Jets in the neutral zone, starting the scoring play with Emil Heineman, which led to like a tic-tac-toe goal, which was a really nice one. And, just the fact that he actually started the play and just seeing little flashes of what Philip Machar can be. Early comparisons when he first got drafted were Thomas Plekanec, which I was like, okay. I mean, they called Machar a game breaker when they were talking on Sportsnet. I'm like, all right, I like the sounds of that. So we'll see what comes of him there. But, I'm really looking forward to seeing what Machar can do. He just looked comfortable out there. Didn't seem to have a lot of pressure on him, just kind of doing his thing. Jordan Harris, as I mentioned. Now, I'm really excited about Caden Gooley. We're going to get to see a heck of a lot more of Caden Gooley. I genuinely believe he's going to crack the Habs roster at a training camp. I expect more great things out of him from the main training camp here. Jordan Harris likely going to crack the roster. I don't know if he'll crack the opening night roster, but another guy that looks poised and just doing his job on the back end. But I got to go back to Gooley for a second, because to me, Gooley's physicality, his offensive potential as well, like he's not afraid to jump up in the rush, as you guys saw against the Senators yesterday. The way when he makes hits, they're clean hits. Like Jeff Petrie always made a clean hit. He always made the right play. He knows how to kill plays well. Jordan Harris also killed some plays really well. So in terms of the back end, I liked what I saw from Harris, Barron, Gooley, and Xhekaj. Those were some guys that really stood on the back end. Absolutely. Riley Kidney. I mean, he had himself a nice little power play goal yesterday, but also just really looked good with Owen Beck and Slafkovsky at times, just looking comfortable out there. Now let's go right into Slav, because I know that a lot of folks have mixed reactions on his play, but to me, what I think happened after the first game, this is just, a guess, a hypothesis, if you will, best educated guess I can come up with. We saw how hard Slafkovsky was trying after the first game, and we know that he played decently well. He got himself a beautiful assist on Machar's shorthanded goal in the first game, but he didn't get a goal. I think everyone was just hoping more than anything that he was actually going to score a goal. But to me, I don't think that was the end result of the goal necessarily for him to score, although it would have been nice. It was really more from I wanted to see his overall game end to end in as much detail as possible. And he was great on the back check. He came back, but I think what it was Slafkovsky's most effective tool that he used was his size in front of the net. Whenever pucks were being put on net, he had a couple of screens and a couple of goals went in with him out in front of the net. So that was nice to see him actually use his size, which we all know is one of his biggest, if not his biggest asset. Well, it's going to be his skill long-term is going to be his biggest asset, but obviously the size to go along with it. So I was happy to see that. And he was able to contribute in still some positive ways. He didn't really look like he was over trying. So what I was kind of getting at there, he seemed like he was trying a little hard in the first game. I feel like they roped him in a little bit and tried to just get him to just calm down and just focus on all the details of his game and not overexert himself too much. At least that's what I'm guessing, because they know how much pressure is on him, and they got to be really careful about to make sure his development path goes well. So to me, in his second game against Ottawa, I felt like he was not trying too hard. He was just trying to blend in and make sure he was making the right play majority of the time. So that's what I gleaned from that. A lot of people overreacting, saying Slav's a bust and all this stuff, but way too early for that. He's still 18 years old. Like I mentioned in one of my last videos, doesn't turn 19 until next March. So not trying to make excuses either, but I'm cheering these guys on. I want them to do well, as I'm sure you guys do. It's extremely early. Let's see how the main training camp goes at the NHL level. See how Slav plays in some exhibition games at the NHL level with NHL line mates against NHL players. So that's when we'll really get a better evaluation early here in his development when he actually gets into the main training camp. That's my opinion anyway. That's what I'm hoping to see. Well, that's all I got, guys. So let me know your thoughts from this rookie camp. Lots to be had here. Can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about it. If you like the videos, you know what to do, you know what buttons to push. So thanks as always for the support, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers, guys.